All right, this is September Bryant Water Wastewater Committee meeting. First thing on the agenda is the August leak adjustments.
It looks like everyone has all their items that they needed to get the adjustments. I don't see anyone in here that...
I see the Bryant High School is on here again.
Yes, it was a different location.
Different location.
And they've got another one coming up next month.
So we can do it for different locations?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Different meters, different locations.
Different meters, different...
buildings or?
Yes, they're different. They're not the same meters. They're different meters.
What's the issue? Why do they keep?
This one was a toilet issue. The last one, I think it's this one has a toilet issue. The last one, Baldwin Shell.
Yeah, they dug into it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the adjustments as presented.
A second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All righty. Move on to the next item is the approval of the August minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the August minutes.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Got 2 seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Now, the August special meeting, we have minutes for that. They should not be very long.
Second.
I'll make a motion to approve that. I'll make a motion to approve that. The minutes of the special call meeting.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the minutes for the special meeting are approved.
Well, you said was it were approved?
Were approved.
Were approved. That's what we just did.
Oh, you took it. Okay. Misunderstood.
All right, financial report.
Nothing that stands out this month. Water's up, wastewater was up this month. Nothing to really report. Touched base with Joy this last week and kind of went over everything. We're still looking really good. We're all on track with everything. She did move some of the depreciation money out of that fund to cover the debt for the bonds that we have. So you'll see that fund went down a little bit, but that's what the fund's for. So other than that, any questions over it? Not a ton to report.
I'll make a motion that we approve the financial report as presented.
Got a motion? Second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Next item is the rate presentation.
So we're going to do this through Zoom. Mr. Dan Jackson wasn't able to be in-house today, but if you guys do remember, he works for Wildan Financial Services, which was the group chosen to perform our water and wastewater rate study. So, Dan, when you're ready, you can take it away.
Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your willingness this to work with me a little bit. I had a bit of a scheduling conflict, and I couldn't be there in person tonight. But I would like to take a few moments to go through the latest rate presentation that we have prepared for for the city. As was indicated, we have been the city's longtime water and wastewater rate consultants. We were engaged to do the latest rate study approximately 6 to 8 months ago. And
Oh, there we go. We'll be back in a second.
Short presentation? I still got
Having internet
questions.
troubles here, and we're working on getting it resolved hopefully by the end of the week, but it's just didn't get resolved in time.
Does he know we can't hear him, so he's gonna start again?
I'm hoping he does.
talking a little bit of background of our rates, what people pay for water and sewer service here. Then we're going to go through customers and volumes, and then your current and your forecast cost of service. In other words, how much water are you producing and what does it cost to produce that water? I then want to present our initial rate plan recommendation for you all. We've narrowed it down to one scenario, but of course, if the committee or the council would like to have additional scenarios, we can certainly do that as well. I often like to say that rate making is as much science, and there's a lot of different rate recommendations that you could put into place. But we think that the rate presentation and the rate scenario that we presented is the most effective for the city, and we're anxious to get input back from you on that. And then I'll just summarize, and we'll talk a little bit about the next steps. So let's go forward and let's talk a little bit about your current rates and the market in general, because I think it's very important for decision makers like yourselves to understand the dynamics in the water industry right now. The water industry is changing very rapidly in the 21st century. Water service is just simply becoming more expensive. The average utility has been raising rates 5 to 6% every year, and that trend is expected to continue. As a matter of fact, the American Water Works Association forecasts that water and sewer rates across the United States are going to triple in the next 15 years. Water is a service that we've all been very used to having at a very low cost over the last 20, 30 years, which is kind of ironic considering the fact that we literally can't live without it. But it has been very inexpensive. Unfortunately, as we enter the 21st century, water is simply becoming more expensive. Now, why is this? Why is water becoming more expensive? It's a common question that's asked because many people say, well, water service isn't materially different today than it was 30 years ago. After all, water tastes the same as it did in 1990, so why should it be any more expensive? And I think that's a legitimate question. And I think the answer to it is that you have to look at water in terms of a business. Water is a product, like a McDonald's hamburger or a gallon of gasoline or anything else. It costs the city money to produce that product. And like any other business, your costs have been going up. Why is that? Well, cost of everything goes up 3 to 4% a year just due to inflation. Plus, water systems are very expensive to build, they're very expensive to maintain, and they're very expensive to update. And so capital improvement costs are going up very rapidly for water systems around the country. Other expenses, the things as simple as uniforms or chemicals or electricity, all of those costs are going up at rapid rates. So as those costs go up, you've got no choice but to pass those costs through to your ultimate customer. And that's why the cost of water service is going up. Now finally, on the next couple of pages, we're going to present some rate comparisons. In other words, what do people in the city of Bryant pay for water service as compared to other surrounding utilities? It's a common question that's asked, and I think it's a legitimate question that's asked. But something to keep in mind is that 30 to 40% of utilities across the United States right now charge rates that do not cover their costs. So just because another utility's rates are lower than yours, that does not necessarily mean that their costs are lower or that they run a more efficient system. It might mean that they have decided to have their general fund subsidize their water and sewer fund. That does not happen here in Bryant. And it is not, it's not illegal to do that, but it's not necessarily good financial policy because it's not a good business to sell a product at less than it costs you to produce that product. So, let's talk just a little bit about what your current rates are, and then I'll do that rate comparison. People in the city pay for water service in two ways. They pay a monthly charge based on the meter size. For most of your customers, use a 5/8-inch meter, and so they pay a monthly charge of $14.53. They also pay a volumetric rate per 100 gallons of 69 cents. That translates to $6.98 per 1,000 gallons. River wells, dairy parks, they pay slightly. On the wastewater side, more residential customers pay a minimum charge of $20.70. And with water, they get the first 2,000 gallons of usage included in that minimum charge. And then they pay a volumetric rate of $1.10 per 100 gallons above that. So, what does that mean in terms of what people pay? Well, before I get to that, let me just talk about your sewer infrastructure fee. A couple of years ago, the city of Bryant adopted or added an infrastructure fee, which is a monthly fee based on meter size for sewer service that is intended to repay water and sewer system bonds and loans. If you're a 5/8-inch customer, you pay a monthly fee of $15.75. And if you have a larger meter, you pay a proportionately higher fee. It's very common for utilities to do this. Oftentimes, particularly utilities that are faced with large capital improvement needs, end up including these additional fees as part of the cost of water and sewer service. So again, one of the key questions many people ask is, do our customers pay a disproportionate amount for water and sewer service compared to neighboring communities? This chart is intended to answer that question. First, I want to note that the average residential customer in the city of Bryant uses about 4,470 gallons a month, or less than 5,000 gallons. Average is just that. It's an average. You certainly have customers that use more than that. You also have a lot of customers that use less than that. But since it's the average, 5,000 gallons is the benchmark that we decided to use as part of this comparison. A customer that uses 5 water and sewer service a month in the city of Bryant pays $89.29 a month for that service. As you can see, that rate is higher in some cities, lower than others, and it is basically within about $5 to $6 of many of the other cities in this rate comparison. You have a little higher than Little Rock, a little higher than North Little Rock and Fayetteville, about the same as Conway, a little bit about the same as Hot Springs, and a little less than cities like Benton and Lincoln. In other words, you're right about where you'd expect to be. Higher than some, lower than others. I think the key takeaway from this chart is that what people pay for water and sewer service in Bryant is not disproportionate to what people pay for water and sewer service in your region of Arkansas and throughout the entire state. Their rates are pretty much in line with what most people pay for that service. Okay, let's move on a little bit and let's talk a little bit of background on your customers and your volumes. Right now, we've got about 8,800 water customers and about 10,000 wastewater customers. We've got more wastewater customers than water customers because we serve the Salem area. To our great surprise, the vast majority of your customers are residential. But you've got a pretty healthy non-residential group, and you've got a good solid amount of sprinkler customers as well. But we've got 8,800 water and 10,000 wastewater. Now, when we do our analysis, we get a 5 to 10 year forecast of your water system operating expenses, customers, accounts, and volumes. That's very important when you do a long-term rate plan because you have to look at your utility not so much as where it is today, but where you expect it to go tomorrow. And if you're expected to have growth over the next 5 years, then that should be factored into any long-term rate plan. This chart right here shows your historical and forecast customers for your water and your wastewater system. As you can see, we had some pretty significant growth over the last 5 years. In 2021, we had 8,300 water accounts. Today, we've got 8,800. And we're projecting that you're going to continue to grow water accounts at the rate of about 150 to 175 new accounts per year, which means that by 2030, we're forecasting that you're going to hit about 9,500 water customers. And basically forecasting the same thing on the wastewater side. You've grown from 8,500 wastewater customers in 2021 to 10,000 today. And we're projecting that you're going to hit about 11,000 wastewater customers in the future. Now, properly managed growth can be very good for a water and wastewater system and for a rate plan, because water systems are based on the fundamental principle called economies of scale. It does not cost you twice as much to serve 10,000 customers as it does to serve 5,000 customers. So, as you grow, you accumulate these economies of scale, you have more customers over which to spread your costs, and that can help you minimize the need for rate increases. I think the city of Bryant has done a great job in managing its growth over the last 5 to 10 years, and as you continue to grow, I think your ratepayers, for the most part, will benefit from it. Okay, this chart is kind of interesting, at least to water nerds like me. It shows what your usage is in the city. In the current year, you have sold about 560 million gallons of water. To no great surprise, 80% of that is your residential and commercial base. But you've got about 10% of your water usage is sprinkler. And about another 8% of it is Woodland Hills. So, to no great surprise, vast majority of your water usage is your residential and your non-residential customers. And just like on the customer side, we're also projecting your water growth over the next 10 years. We're projecting that your water consumption growth will hit about 600 million gallons by the year 2030. We've had some pretty healthy growth in your water consumption over the last few years, and we think that growth will basically continue over the next 4 or 5 years. Now, that will have some pretty significant ramifications for your costs, particularly in terms of the additional costs that you'll pay to Central Arkansas Water, but that is fully factored into the rate I present to you tonight. Now, of course, one other thing is that water usage is very heavily dependent on weather conditions. So, while the general trend is upwards, it's probably going to bounce around a little bit in future years, because in dry years, you'll sell more water, and wet years, you'll sell less water. But for the most part, we think the general trend is upwards. All right, now we talk about your customers and volumes, let's now talk about your costs. Well, remember, what we did is we've done a forecast of our water and wastewater system costs. Keep this very important principle in mind. A forecast is not a guarantee. A forecast is a prediction based on a series of reasonable assumptions. Well, what are some of the assumptions that we used? Well, one of the key assumptions is that we assume that most of your expenses will probably increase at the rate of about 3% a year. After all, cost of everything goes up by 3% a year just due to inflation. So, a well-designed financial forecast model has to assume that there's going to be some sort of inflation in future years. Importantly, however, our model also has the ability to forecast additional increases in certain expenses like insurance, fuel, chemicals, and the like, because some of those costs will go up at a rate greater than inflation, and we factor that into our model. We have also factored in the assumption that the city will add one new FTE or one new employee to the water utility and one new employee to the wastewater utility each year for the next 5 years. And that's to be expected. As your system grows, you expect to add additional personnel. One of the key factors, though, is your capital improvement plan. Capital improvement can vary widely between the utilities, but when you need to invest in your capital improvements or in your system is a fundamental and one of the most important factors in and a long-term rate plan. Capital improvement plans impact your rates in three ways. How much do you have to pay, fund, when do you have to fund it, and how do you finance it? Based on our discussions and meetings with city staff, we are now projecting in our rate study that over the next 5 years, the city will fund approximately $61 million in long-term water and wastewater capital improvements. The lion's share of that will be funded through long-term debt issued at 20 years and about 4% interest. And we're going to assume that you're going to continue to use that infrastructure fee revenue to fund the debt service payments. But that additional capital improvement costs are ratcheting up your total costs and are going to result in the need for rate adjustments in the future. This chart right here is your forecast cost of service in the current year. It's costing you about $5.8 million to run our water system this year. And it's costing you about $6.7 million to run the wastewater. There are two charts break down the components of the costs. As you can see, your personnel and operating costs are about 48%. Your Central Arkansas water is about over 33% of your water costs. Your debt service on your capital improvements is about 7%, capital outlays 5%, and transfers 3%. And the proportion is pretty much the same on your wastewater side. Although personnel and operating are a greater percentage of that, 36 and 33%. And then debt service is about 10%, and capital outlays and transfers are the difference. But what's important about this chart is that when you look at the water costs, and Central Arkansas Water is a fundamental key driver of your water costs. So as CAW increases their costs, you have no choice but to pass those costs through to your ultimate ratepayers. Central Arkansas Water is projecting right now that their rates are going to increase at about 5.9% a year over the next 5 years. It's costing, their rate right now is about $2.70 per 1,000 gallons, which translates to about $1.62 per 100 cubic feet. And as you can see, by 2030, that $2.17 is expected to hit $2.97. Once again, you have to pass this through to your ultimate ratepayers. This chart right here shows what your forecast CAW costs are likely to be over the next 5 years. Your Central Arkansas water costs are going to increase not just due to the fact that the rate is going up, but it's also going to increase due to the fact that you're going to be buying more water from them over the next 5 years. So right now, in the current year, Central Arkansas water costs are about $1.9 million. But by 2030, that cost is expected to hit $3.2 million. That's an increase of about 40% over the next 5 years. And so our rate plan factors that in to the long-term cost of service. This is a more detailed description of the forecast capital improvement needs over the next 5 years. As I indicated earlier, the staff has identified approximately $61.8 million of capital improvement needs in the next 5 years. 77% of that is wastewater, and the remaining percent is water. And from this chart, it describes some of the primary projects that to fund the capital improvement plan. These projects being the activated sludge process improvements on the wastewater side, clarification improvements, lift station. I mean, all of those projects are very, very expensive, and this rate plan allows the city to fund all of them using long-term debt. So, we are projecting the need over the next 5 years for the city to issue approximately $44.7 million to fund the capital improvement plan. The remaining amount will be funded through a combination of reserves and impact fees. So as you can see, $44 million in total debt. In 2025, we're projecting that you'd need $18 million. In 2026, about $6 million. in 2028, about $13 million, and in 2029, about $9 million. So, as I said, the need to fund the debt service associated with those bond issues is rolled right into the rate plan that we're going to present to you. Okay, here's our forecast debt service payments. Here, the city is funding about, the water and sewer system is paying about $1.08 million in principal and interest on its long-term debt. You can see how much more debt payments we're looking at over the next 5 years. And that's why the city's decision to adopt the Wastewater Infrastructure Fund was a very sound decision. Because while it's not easy to ask people to pay a monthly fee, that monthly fee is going a long way towards paying the debt service that is necessary to keep the system operating at a rate that is acceptable to you and to your ratepayers. So, your debt service needs are expected to increase fairly significantly in the next 5 years. Okay, this chart on service. As I indicated earlier, the water and wastewater combined cost of service for the current year is about $12.5 million. And you can see how it ratchets up to about $20 million by the year 2030. The bar chart is composed of several subsections. You've got your operating costs at the bottom. You can see those are going up. Cost of revenue goes up 3 to 4% a year, so that is primarily inflation driven. Your Central Arkansas water, you'll see the blue portion of the bar chart gets to be a little bit greater in the coming years. And the trash flows and capital outlays remain fairly constant, but the debt service becomes significantly greater. So you can see the factors that are driving your rate plan. It's not the operating costs, and it's not the capital outlays, and it's not the transfers. It's primarily the Central Arkansas water increases and the new debt service. Those are the factors behind the need to adopt a new long-term rate plan. So, speaking of which, let's get to the rate plan itself. I'm first going to present to you just kind of an overall picture of our recommendations. That the city adopt a new 5-year rate plan. It would be a plan that would have rate adjustments in January of each of the next 5 years, 2026 through 2030. So it would be one ordinance, it would be one vote, and it would be 5 years of automatic rate adjustments. We don't recommend that there be any fundamental change in the rate structure. We think the rate structure is very sound. It accomplishes its job, it gets you the revenue that you need, and our philosophy is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's no need to change your rate structure at all. So we recommend uniform percent increases for your water system and your wastewater system. Now, one of the important findings of the current rate study is that right now our water rates are under-recovering a little bit. And the wastewater rates are kind of carrying your water rates a bit. That's why we recommend higher adjustments in the water side. We recommend 9% water rate adjustments for each of the next 5 years. We recommend a 6% wastewater adjustment in 2026, 2027, and 2028, followed by a nominal 2% adjustment in 2029 and 2030. All the important things to keep in mind is that if the city adopts a 5-year rate plan in accordance with our recommendations, the city always has the ability to come back at any point in the future and adjust that rate plan. In other words, what it is you put on a 5-year rate plan that sets you on a course over the next 5 years. But if at some point in the future, if you decide that, maybe your expenses aren't good, or maybe you're growing a little bit more than you thought, you can always go back in and adjust the rate plan accordingly. But the default option is to let each of the adjustments go into effect over each of the next 5 years. I also want to mention, before I show the rates, that multi-year rate plans are becoming more and more common, not only in Arkansas, but throughout the United States. We work for several cities in Arkansas, and almost all of them have multi-year rate plans. So these multi-year rate plans are becoming very popular, and I think that they will really help accomplish their objectives. So, But first I'm going to show you the rates themselves, then I'll show you the more important chart, and that is the impact on your average residential and non-residential customer of the rate plan itself. This is the proposed water plan. As you can see, for our residential and non-residential customers, we recommend increasing the monthly minimum charge from its current level of $14.53 for your 5/8-inch customers to $15.84 effective in January 2026, at $1.30 a month. And you can see similar increases for each of the next 4 years, and proportionately higher increases for the larger meters, that are 9% basically. The value rate after the first 2,000 gallons will go from 69.8 cents per 100 gallons to 76.1 cents in 2026, with proportionate increases in each of the next 4 years. Then the next one is the wastewater rates. We recommend taking the residential and non-residential minimum charge from $20.70 to $21.94 in January of 2026. It will go up to $23.26 in January 2027, and to $24.65 in January 28, but then lesser increases to $25.15 in 2029 and $25.65 in 2030. And you can see the volumetric rate would go up at the same proportion. The solid coral ridge and drain water rates, wastewater rates, would go up at similar percentage increases. And we're also going to recommend, based on our discussions with staff, that you make one other significant adjustment to the rate plan. And that is that the wastewater infrastructure fee, we recommend decreasing the 5/8-inch wastewater monthly charge from $15.75 to $10. We would recommend, though, doing adjustments in each of the other wastewater infrastructure monthly charges for each of the other meter sizes. So we would offset some, in other words, we would transfer some of the burden from the wastewater infrastructure fee to the wastewater monthly charge. Because as I said earlier, right now your wastewater rates are over-recovering a bit. And so this helps right the ship a little bit. So as you can see, we're actually seeing a decrease in the wastewater infrastructure monthly charge in the first year, but then you would see proportionate increases in each of the future years. Okay, that's a lot of numbers. This is probably the most important chart in the entire presentation, because what this chart does is boils down the rate recommendations to the actual impact on your customers. This is the impact on monthly charges for residential customers at 2,000 gallons, 5,000 gallons, and 10,000 gallons. Remember what I said earlier, the average residential customer uses 4,470 gallons a month. What that means is that 70 to 75% of our monthly bills are going to be 5,000 gallons or less. Obviously, we have residential customers that use more than 5,000 gallons. You have residential customers that use a lot more than 5,000 gallons, but there aren't that many of them. The vast majority of them are using somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 gallons a month. So, under this rate plan, if you're a 2,000 gallon a month user, your bill actually goes down in the first year. It goes from $50.98 to $47.78. That's because the increase in the water rate and the wastewater rate is offset by the $5.75 decline in the wastewater monthly infrastructure charge. Once again, the benefit of this plan is that it transfers more of the cost to the higher volume users away from the lower volume users. So if you're a 5,000 gallon user, your bill only goes up by 67 cents a month, from $105.04 to $105.71. So basically, under this plan, in the first year, most of your customers will either see no change in their bill or a slight decrease. Now, of course, if you get above 5,000 gallons, then you're going to start seeing an increase. If you're a 10,000 gallon user, your bill goes from $195 to $202, or $7 a month. For a commercial business, you're seeing about a 6 to 7% increase in your bill. Because commercial businesses, for the most part, have meters that are larger than 5/8 inch, so they don't get the decrease in the monthly charge on the wastewater infrastructure fee. Now, in future years, we're seeing about a 6 to 7% increase in 2027 and 2028, and about a 4 to 5% increase in 2029 and 2030. So, in 27 through in 28, your bills go up between $3 and $7 a month, and in 2029 and 2030, they go up between $2 and $5 a month. So, basically what we're looking at is, under this rate plan, for most of the ratepayers would see very little change in the first year, followed by about a $3 to $7 a month increase in 2027 and 2028, and a $2 to $5 a month increase in 2029 and 2030. So, you'll be happy to know that I'm to my very last chart now. I just want to emphasize that we understand and appreciate the fact that it's never easy to change rate plans. It's never easy to ask ratepayers to pay more. And there will be under this plan. But if there is a committee and the city council choose to adopt this plan, it will be very beneficial to the city. You might ask, how in the world can raising rates be beneficial? Well, they're beneficial for a couple of reasons. First of all, adopting this rate plan will enable the city to fully fund all of your water and wastewater costs, as well as your CIP over the next 5 years. It will enable the city to do $60 million of investment in the future of the city of Bryant. Because one of the benefits of running the water and sewer system is that the money you recover from your customers goes right back into the streets and alleyways of the city of Bryant. All those capital improvement plans, that $60 million of CIP, that's going to go right into refurbishing, building, overhauling, and expanding your water and wastewater system. That's going to benefit you and future generations of ratepayers. Furthermore, adopting this rate plan will enable you to do what 30 to 40% of utilities aren't able to do. And that is fully self-fund your water and sewer operation with no need for subsidies from the general fund. And finally, we'll enable you to continue to provide a high level of service, safe drinking water, and effectively treat your wastewater system. I know there's a lot to digest from this presentation, but we strongly urge that you consider endorsing the rate plan that we've presented to you tonight. So with that, I'd be very happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
I know we finance a lot of our capital improvement plans through grants and things. Does that take that into account on this?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really get grants just because of how high our median household income is. But if you can see, he figured the debt repayment at 4% over 20 years, and that's average of what we'll get through natural resources to do through private funding. Yeah, that would be about the same.
Pardon me if they've already said this, but back over on the system infrastructure fee, down there on the bottom right, it says the fee is set to automatically increase by 5% each year. What is the cap? 5% each year until year?
There's not a cap.
There is not.
cap.
Okay.
But we will have to go back for a rate study another 5 years. And that'll be consideration again.
What about on the county water? What percentage are we at on that now?
For unaccounted water or counted water?
The water that
The water loss.
we pay.
Line loss.
We don't bill people.
Well, I didn't look right before. We were right around 4% of the most recent one I can remember, but I'd have to look again.
So then, the rate proposal, the reason we're looking at 5 years is because you project we'll do another rate study in 5 years. Because when you mentioned this would be an ordinance, that we would say this is an ordinance for adopting for 5 years for this plan. But then you said we could go back and revisit that in a couple of years. So
You would have to perform another rate study.
If you decided in 2 years that rates were higher than we wanted them to be, we would commission another rate study, and then they would come back with new rates that you could then.
That's mandated by 605,
Yeah.
not by us.
Okay. And just for information, how much does
The rate study.
the rate study cost us?
Projected, not sure, current, just under 100,000.
Is 5 years now the requirement for a rate study? Okay. I thought it was more often than that, but they
So
changed.
the city ordinance is an external rate study every 3 years.
Okay,
But with this, and if this is adopted, we'd probably write that back into every 5 years, so we don't start overlapping and paying for two, unless, like Nancy said, the decision is to go back and form another.
so the city would have to change that, I mean, they would have to approve that, okay.
What year are we in our current rate study?
Next year would just be a 3% increase. So we're at the end of it.
At the end of it? How true were the projections of the last rate study?
It's done pretty well. Yeah, done really well.
So if we're at the end of our rate study, is it prudent for us to adopt a rate proposal for 5 years out when it's time for us to do another rate study?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Well, we're going to do another rate study anyway.
This would be the adopted rate study, and then we wouldn't do another one for another 5 years,
Okay.
unless you guys in council chose to do one somewhere else in there.
I misunderstood.
When will we stop getting our water from CAW? I know we're going to keep a fee there for emergencies and things, but the Saline County,
Yeah, that'd be determined in the 2030 range, since water delivery isn't expected until 2030 or beyond from Slim Regional, so we'll just keep that in our mind. But by the time we're undergoing our next rate study, we'll have a lot more answers than we do right
So
now.
pretty much
it'll take
this
into
rate-
account It'll take into account different rates and fees.
so this rate study will pretty much get us to where we're looking at a new water source and
Yeah,
evaluating
this
the
rate
rates.
study funds our system completely for the next 5 years of capital improvement plans that were just recently adopted by council for water and wastewater, and we're complying with Act 605, all the different requirements that Act 605 has. One of them is that the rate study has to be done by a third party, and it has to be adopted by July of 2026.
How would it be effective if we had some unforeseen circumstances that required more repairable, infrastructure work? How would that affect this, or would it? It wouldn't affect it, okay.
Well, I think I'm the only person on this committee that was here when we, you remember this, the wastewater plant was carrying the water. And we went, Lisa, how many years without a rate increase? We couldn't get one passed. And it is very hard to play catch-up when you do that. And nobody likes a rate increase, especially my husband. But, we have to keep our water at a cost where we can do what we need to do with our properties and providing what we need to provide for the citizens of Bryant. So, I know it seems like a lot percentage-wise, but for most of our residents, it's like the first year's going to be a decrease. So, I just don't see personally how we could not adopt this.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get back in the same situation we were in.
One of the things we're not necessarily looking for recommendations tonight. There's a special water and sewer at 5 o'clock on September 30th, which is before council. We'd like you guys to take some time, digest it, if you guys have questions, if anybody else has questions. And we have some other outreach during it, some other meetings, going to planning, talking to the chamber and stuff like that. So we can get the information out there to others also.
And will we, if we pass it, will we have meetings for the citizens to come to where we can try to explain all that?
There's a community engagement meeting and then the town hall.
Town Hall, September 18th, for any kind of questions, comments about this rate study. Plan. At Bishop Park, I think 6 o'clock.
I think it's really important to note that the 5/8 meters, that infrastructure fee charge, us being able to bring it down for the 5/8 meters affects most of our customer base. If you look at the consumption, and if you use less water, you pay for less water. So we've set it up in a way that if people are on the path of conservation and all of those things that we're encouraging already, your bill, your minimum bill is going to go down. So you're going to see a decrease in your bill. I think that's one thing that's really important to focus on, and I encourage you guys to look at the other cities in Arkansas with this Act 605 compliance and compare to how many are going to be able to do that, and there's many so far. So.
Yeah, and with the adoption of the new meters and the data that a customer can look at anytime they want, it would additionally help them with their conservation.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools at their disposal now that they're set up to have a monthly minimum bill or, be able to see a decrease in their bill. As long as they're using less, they're going to be paying less. So that's kind of what this rate structure sets up to encourage.
How does, I don't know what is the correct word I need to use, but our previous rate study, how does this rate study compare as far as ease of implementation and, from year to year? Is this an easier rate plan for us to follow, or?
We
what is
typically
it?
do 3-year plans. This is a 5-year plan. Dan actually did the last one.
Yeah, I thought they did, so I was just curious if this is comparable so that we kind of know what to expect, and how it's going to be for everybody.
I would say the one big difference is that in 2008 was the last time that master plans and capital improvement plans were adopted. We have fresh master plans, which is the whole reason that we did everything in the order that we did it in. So our master plans and our capital improvement plans absolutely correctly reflect what we need to have done in the system in the next 5 years so that it can accurately reflect the rates. So being able to get all of the projects that we need done in the next 5 years to continue providing the level of service that we're providing and be able to do what we're doing with the bill, that's a big win to be able to do something like that, because like I said, last master plans were 2008. So when they did the master rate study last time, they didn't have necessarily a capital improvement plan that properly reflected their current level of.
Most of our CIP, our capital improvement plans from our last master plan from 2008, we were pretty much done with everything for the last rate study that came out, and they no longer reflected what the direction we were trying to go with.
Well, good presentation. Appreciate the different breakdowns of it so we can look at it.
Before we let Dan go, does anybody have questions specifically for Dan?
You did say that a lot of cities are implementing the 5-year plan versus whatever they've done before, like yearly one, I guess, I don't know. Can we get any information on like who they are and how many are doing it that way and what kind of luck they're having in it as well?
Well, I can tell you that Water Rock and Hot Springs do multi-year rate plans. I know that because I do that for them. And I do a lot of work in Texas as well as Arizona. And I could probably list to you 20 to 30 cities right off the top of my head that do multi-year rate plans. And not every city does it, but one of the biggest benefits of doing a multi-year rate plan is that water systems are fairly straightforward in terms of how costs are increasing. There's not a lot of surprise in running a water system. When people use water in very consistent patterns, growth tends to be steady, and most importantly, we tend to know years in advance when we're going to require certain capital improvements. And so if you know that 3 years from now you have to do a major overhaul of the lift station, you can start planning for it now, gradually increase your rates in order to ensure that when that project is done, you've got the money to pay for it. I've also found, in my career at least, that many cities prefer multi-year rate plans because ratepayers tend to prefer gradual increases as opposed to one big sudden increase. A lot of cities think they're doing the ratepayers a favor by holding rates down year after year after year after year. And capital improvement plan project that they get faced with, and they do a 30% rate increase. Well, guess what happens? Ratepayers forget about the fact that the rates haven't gone up in 4 or 5 years, and they just focus on that little big increase, because nobody likes to be surprised. Whereas, had we been doing gradual increases at a couple of dollars a month each year, it's a lot easier for the most part for families and residential homes to incorporate those gradual increases, and so therefore the impact is not as significant. I think those are the reasons why multi-year rate plans have become so popular, in my opinion, all over the U.S.
One thing to remember, Linda, is our capital improvement near-term projects are based on a 5-year schedule and requiring it to end within 5 years.
It's also mandated by Act 605 that cities of our size get rate studies done by a third party and approved by Natural Resources Commission every 5 years. So making sure that we do it every 5 years. Another thing to add, that if CAW had given us their forecasted rate structure for the next 10 years and had adopted that as their rate structure, it probably would have been a lot harder to do a 5-year, because you're just really kind of predicting what their increases are going to be. But when they did their rate study and passed it down to us, we had a very clear path of what their increases over the next 10 years are going to be. So we're making sure that we're not subsidizing that through our system.
So we've had about as much information as we've ever had to
Absolutely.
do a rate plan study.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
By far, yes.
Okay.
Good with Dan?
Any other questions?
All right, Dan, I think we're good. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you all at the end of the month. Thanks again.
All right, I guess I know what to do. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comments.
Okay, well, say something here, folks. Mayor Treat, 807 Southwest 2nd Street, ratepayer. First of all, I just wanted to thank you as a committee. You know that this is a hot topic. And so serving on those committees, a lot of heavy lifting. It's not easy. And I've watched you, even before I was mayor, take on some really tough decisions. And I really appreciate how you are. You're very thoughtful. You're very thorough. You have educated yourself. You're experts on our system. And you've given very, very sound advice to our council, which has allowed our council to make some really good decisions. We're in a good place. We have, in this study, been able to lower the infrastructure fee, which doesn't matter how much water you use, you got to pay it, right? How much sewer. So we've lowered that, and we've put a focus on the user, right? Use less, pay less. That's the direction we want to go, right? We want more control in the hands of the user, right? Of the ratepayer. That's obviously what we've been able to do with the new technology. If you're not, we're going to push more people to get the water scope. Again, that's a way for people to really watch their usage so they can lower their bills. The other thing with Saline Regional, right, if you notice that 9% increase, CAW is increasing by 8, okay? So as far as what we control as a 1%, is that right?
0.2%.
0.2%, sorry. So we're working hard on that side with the rest of the county. We don't have a seat on that board. We'll have a seat on this board. Does that mean all everything's going to go down and we're going to, it's going to be the Garden of Eden again? No. But it does give, again, it's giving us more control over our future. And I also want to say a huge thank you to Tim, Bryce, Mariah, Ted, and their team. I have sat in hours and hours of meetings. They've been kind to educate me on things. Them working really hard to make sure all of this makes sense for the Bryant resident, the ratepayer. That's always been in the back of their mind. I've seen it over and over and over. And consultants come in with grand plans, right? And they don't care about the price tag. These guys do. And they were like, no, we need to rethink this. That sewer treatment plant is a bear. And it's going to be, and I have heard so many different scenarios about how we're going to increase capacity for this city. And they have worked so hard to come up with a great plan to initially increase and then look at longer term, larger plant expansion. So I just wanted to, again, thank you and thank the team because I think at the end of the day, the Bryant resident, the Bryant ratepayer is going to reap the benefit of all the hard work they've put in to do this the right way. So thanks.
Do we have any other public comments? Okay. Next item on the agenda is old business. I don't see anything under that. Or new business. So, all right, we'll move on to update on the projects. Saline Regional update.
Saline Regional is going well. We are starting our kickoff meeting, our easement kickoff meeting with Volkert tomorrow. We've got a meeting with Natural Resources Division on Friday to discuss funding and different avenues of how we can go about getting this thing fully funded. Other than that, we're just kind of plugging away, still trying to get easements, still going through design. Got about $4.5 million in ARPA funds from the county left. So trying to make sure that we're balancing that with engineering fees and land acquisition and different things like that. So kind of a balancing act, but we're balancing it pretty well, if I do say so myself. So
Do a good job. Okay. Lift Station 5 update?
I don't have a whole lot on Lift Station 5 because actually our update meeting is usually on Monday. We're here on Monday, so the update is actually tomorrow, but I believe the funding application was signed today.
Yep.
So funding application with NRD was signed today. As we know from previous times, that's a chore, but so moving forward, I'll have a better update at the end of the month of the special council, our special water sewer advisory, that one.
Okay. Leah Circle?
The circle's rocking along. Couple of hiccups in construction like always happen, but nothing too detrimental, so still plugging away. They're supposed to do plant shutdown Thursday night to core into another wet wells, so that's being planned with the plant manager and then also with electric utilities and the contractors on site. So, and then Bryce will be monitoring the SCADA for Lift Station 5 and 25 and pumps and all that good stuff, so we don't overflow.
We're gonna do it overnight, middle of the night, low flow, shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Well, I'll echo what the mayor said. I really appreciate the work y'all done and doing the master plan studies, looking at the capital improvements and getting everything that we needed to have in order to look at this rate study, including the new meters with the new technology. I think we're in about as good a place as we can be, and you know, it is an increase, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I think it's because of y'all's hard work, and I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything?
So I agree with you on what you just said. I think we've got probably the best water wastewater department that we've ever had in the city of Bryant right now. And there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I know that. I know, you know, because we're involved here. The public isn't quite aware of it, but we've got a good group, and I hope we don't ever lose any of them. I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah, and they're not just doing a great job with what we're dealing with right now, but they've got a better grasp on looking into the future than we probably ever had. And I appreciate that. All right. I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor? All righty, we are adjourned, and